Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today on Collection of Lessons, I want to talk about fighting for time. This is part of my Collection of Lessons series. Anything I say on this channel is not anything advice, and let's get going. So what I want to start out with is, when I talk about fighting for time, I'm talking about your life, basically. Like, time equals life, that type of thing, right? And I'm drawing this square on here because this is your progress bar, right? And in this progress bar, you'll have stages of life, right? At the beginning, you're born, of course, B-O-R-N. I don't know why I spelled it out, but you're born right here. And then when you're age 5, right, you go to school, and then when you're, teenager, then you become, around 18 is another, significant time where you start to make your own decisions. You're your own adult. You got to decide what you want to do for the rest of your time, right? And where I want to talk about this is, and I call it fighting for time, because at this point, usually, if your parents are usually paying for things up until about 18. So this, basically doesn't count. That is not my line that I wanted. But usually, this part doesn't really count for much. You're learning a lot. You're learning how to tie shoes. You're learning how to make friends. You're learning how to drive a car. This is a learning phase, right, of life. So you can't really do too much in this time that will affect, they do have long-term effects, but they don't really affect the time that I'm going to be talking about. So at 18, you start to decide, what am I going to do with life, right? What am I going to do for the rest of my time? And you hope that, let's say, here is the end of time of your life, right? It's something that's, let's hope it's around like age 100 or plus, right? Like that would be, as we're increasing lifespans with our advanced technologies. What do you do with this time? And this is where, some people, they have turning points in their life, and midlife crisis and that type of thing. And where that comes into play is basically when you're going to a job or you're making money, realize that you're actually fighting for time. You're taking time to hopefully make more time than you're taking, right? Why would you work a job, if you can work for a job for 8 hours to get 16 hours of time? That's a good deal, right? You want to work littler than you earn. You want to be able to have that time. And where that comes into play is, this comes into whole retirement and everything like that. Retirement, they say, is around 65. Like, somewhere around here is your traditional retirement. If I were to make it an R, traditional retirement around 65, somewhere around that. And I mean, we have some systems in place, like Canadian pension plan here in Canada, pension plans, registered pension plans, all these types of plans, work pension plans, those types of things, which are kind of like to help, kind of almost not guaranteed in a way, but in a sense help, because a lot of people will waste 18 to 65, not have a plan, right? And when I talk about fighting for time, let's just like use my example, for instance, like, going into, if I keep switching back and forth, where I'm at now, let's just say middle is 50, right? And 18, to, somewhere in here is about 32, right? It's about the age that I am, I hope, if I remember correctly, right? What did I do in this time? What did I do in this time? Well, I definitely learned a lot, right? You learn what you want, you learn a career, you learn a business, you learn whatever, you learn to have kids, you learn what a house is like, you learn what a mortgage is like, you learn what you don't want and what you do want. You buy a fancy vehicle, you do whatever you want. This is definitely this was some learning time. But what am I doing now? And what am I focusing on now? Well, I'm focusing on this time didn't really create any future retirement results other than, those pensions and all those types of things. So this time was more of a learning time. If I used like that 2-to-1 ratio where you're, working so that you have money, so that you can invest, so that you can, in the future, spend it and not work, right? That's what this whole idea of the pension and moving from that, left side to the right side of time equals dollars dollars, and moving to the right side where it's passive in a sense, where your time does not equal dollars, right? Does not equal dollars. That's retirement, right? So you work all this time, and eventually you throw some money during your paychecks into this, so that eventually you can quit your job and just rely on this and sifting out money, and that should last you from this to this whenever you happen to pass. When I say fighting for time, when I go to work every day, I'm remembering, I'm thinking, today's day, like one day of work, I want it to equal future days, like 5 days of retirement, right? So I'm fighting for time. I'm not fighting for money. I'm not there for the money. I'm there for the time, right? Just to disassociate the dollars from your time. I'm not at work for money. Money pays for things, but money is buying me time. I'm paying my life to have time, if that makes sense, right? My time now, right, is paying for future time that I don't have to work. So, if I have to work hard for 5 years, let's see, and that equals 15 years of retirement, that sounds like a decent deal. Right? Let's just say this is kind of a given. This number, most people think it's a given, so therefore we're going to think it's a given, just in this sense. So if I work 5 more years, I'm 37, and that gives me 15 more years. So we add, 37 and 15 is 52. So that gets me to 52. Can I do anything right now for 5 years extra that could maybe increase this ratio? Instead of 3 times the amount of time for dollars, maybe I can get 4 times. Maybe I can get 20 years, right? And this is why, I started YouTube, I started investing, I started trading, started a business. These types of things, I'm getting smarter with my money over time, during this time. So that, the 5 years that I'm working for the next 5 years could mean I don't have to work for 20 years before the 65. So this is why, if you think of the concept as fighting for time rather than I'm, trading time for dollars, or I'm, going to work to, work for someone that's making more money than me, and you're thinking about all those extra things, just think about how much you're fighting for your time, how much you're fighting for your freedom, right? If I can do this and do 5x, so if I work really hard for 5 years, and that equals 25 years of retirement that I can successfully get away with, I'm going to do it. Why wouldn't I do it? This is why I work so hard. This is why I think so hard. This is why, I'm taking in so much knowledge, reading so many books. I've read more books in the last 2 years than I have my entire life before this 32, or I guess 30, when I was 30 when I started. But this is the idea. This is the point. So I can work for 5 years and get the next 25 years, which will carry me to here, which then other programs and stuff will come into play, which then will take me the entire way. So just think, and that's what I do when I think about going to work. I'm fighting for money. I'm not. I'm fighting for time. I want this dollars that I make to equal future time, because dollars are just a way of taking your time and other things that have time in it, like products and bread and water and whatever else you pay money for. That's just somebody else's time that kind of dealt with all that. So you're just trading your time for time, and you want to have a good ratio, because if you work 1 year of time and that equals 1 year of retirement, well, you work the 1 year to get the 1 year. If you work 1 year and it doesn't equal anything, that's what kind of living paycheck to paycheck is. And that's very unfortunate, and I would really recommend try and get out of that if you can. But if you work 1 year, it's like you work 50 years so you can have 50 years off. It's that's a long time. That'd be great, if you could but why can't you do it faster? So anyway, that's what I want to share with this video. Fighting for time. Think of your life almost in a sense as a progress bar. I mean, we don't know where it ends, but we know that what's the best that we can do with the least amount of time to get the most amount of time out of it, right? Maybe it's just even reducing expenses. Maybe if you reduced your expenses, you can increase this ratio, this amount, so that your X amount of years equals more time. Maybe that's the case. Anyway, just want to share that. Thanks, and talk soon.